So tonight I watched all 5 episodes of the new Marvel series, the Marvel Spotlight series, Echo. Make sure you hit the like button, and what I really want you to do is comment and let me know what you guys thought about the show and what you think about my review of the show. If you guys do that, it helps out the video and we get to have a much wider discussion about shows like Echo. So overall, I thought Echo was a good show. Not the best show in the world. It's not Daredevil from Netflix. It's not any other shows that you would consider like top tier, but it's a good show. It's something I want to get us used to saying about shows that are not classic, but they're certainly not trash. Some things are just good or even solid. Echo is good, I think. It was really entertaining, and I think one of the main reasons why it was entertaining is because of our leads. We have Alako Cox, who's playing Echo, who is phenomenal in the role. She wasn't as interesting in the Hawkeye series for sure, but she's much more interesting in this series because we get to know a lot more about her history, her culture, and where she came from outside of just her dealings with Kingpin. Now that we have a much more well-rounded character, she's much more interesting in general. But let's get to the real nitty-gritty of what you guys want to talk about. The fights. MA rating, the mature rating, right? The fights are dope. She really kicks ass between episodes 1 and 3. That's where all the good fights are. After that, episodes 4 and 5 are much more relationship focused, much more drama focused, and there is a fight in the finale, but to be honest with you guys, it wasn't that good. You'll replay the fights from the first 3 episodes for sure, but that last fight honestly was quite disappointing. The finale in and of itself could be considered disappointing, but I'm going to give some reasons why I think it's not. Overall, I think that the fighting in this show, especially her initial fight with Daredevil, where she kind of holds her own, but she doesn't like overthrow Daredevil or embarrass him or make it look like he's an equal. He's kind of toying with her in a sense. You can actually kind of tell that he could beat her ass if he really wanted to, but at the same time, she does put up a fight, and that kind of proves something to Kingpin, that she's actually a worthy apprentice of his. Some of the things that I really thought were interesting about that, apparently the Daredevil show is canon, as are the rest of the Netflix shows. I was really interested in seeing whether or not they would include Bullseye from season 3. And I was also really interested in if they would ever explain how Kingpin got out of jail. Of course, it's Kingpin. He gets out of jail every time he gets put in there, unless he wants to stay in there, like we saw in season 2 of Daredevil. If you recall, at the end of like Daredevil season 3, it was, if you get out of jail, Vanessa is in danger. Right? So if this is the same Kingpin, what's happening with that situation? I'm sure that we'll explore that more in the Daredevil show. It did kind of cross my mind. But back to Echo. So the good parts of the shows are the action scenes, of course, as well as Echo herself. I also want to mention that the cultural heritage passing along, kind of like an Avatar state kind of thing, of her powers that she pretty much gains from her ancestors that was passed along from generation to generation. I liked that part of the show. It gave us a good flashback, gave us a good little bit of history, but you can tell in the finale, because there's one more person standing there than the ancestors that we were shown, that there's an episode missing somewhere in here. And let me just go into why I think that that's not a bad thing, and why I also think them dropping all 5 episodes in one day is actually really beneficial, as opposed to the way that they were doing the previous seasons of Marvel MCU television. Because they dropped all of these episodes in the same day, you got to see the whole story play out in a short amount of time if you wanted to watch it all in one night. And I think that that's really beneficial, because the way that these Marvel shows were previously structured before they decided to change it going forward, they were movies that were cut up into like 5 or 6 episodes. So being able to sit down and watch all of it at one time gives a different experience, still a different experience in television, but it's not like you're watching a movie and they just pause at a certain point without any kind of resolution to what was happening. When you watch a TV episode, there's still a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's an arc in a TV episode. There weren't really arcs in the episodes of the MCU shows, so they kind of felt like someone pressed pause in the middle of telling a story, and now we have to wait till the next week. Because I was able to zoom straight through all 5 episodes, I didn't get that feeling at all of you're nickel and diming the story when you could just tell the whole thing, which is why this finale worked for me even more than it would have if I had to wait a week for it. If I had to wait a week for this finale, I would be really disappointed. I actually felt like that might have been the case if the last episode of Secret Invasion was just smashed into the episode before that, right? I don't think, actually that's not true. Secret Invasion was bad, and I don't think anything could have saved it. Even releasing releasing all of it in the same day, no. It was so bad. Well, it was bad at the end. Well, I'm not really trying to give you my Secret Invasion review right now, but I enjoyed all 5 episodes. Then episode 6 dropped, and now it was just like, man, y'all wasted all of that. Back to Echo. So basically, because they released all those episodes at one time, it feels like just one cohesive story that I could just watch. The Marvel special presentations that they were doing were also really good ways to introduce side characters in stories that aren't necessarily supposed to change the nature of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're just little tight stories that you can just tell, just like, you know, a little appetizer hors d'oeuvre, if you will. My experience watching this show was much better than my experience watching some of those other shows that I think could have benefited from this, right? A show I really like, Miss Marvel, could have benefited from a one-day drop. That would have been a great binge. The finale of that series was kind of like, do we really have to wait a week for this? The Hawkeye show would have just dropped all at one time. It wasn't necessarily packaged as a TV show, but it was more so packaged as a special event situation where you could just watch it all in one day. I feel like Hawkeye would have been received much better than it was. So there's different situations where it works and where it doesn't work. Had this show been dropped one episode every week, I would not have enjoyed my experience as much as I did tonight. And there's only one other complaint that I really have about this show. While I do enjoy the idea of those ancestral powers passing down from one generation to the next, one of my biggest pet peeves in superhero shows like this, where it just seems like the hero can kind of almost do anything with those powers. Like their powers are all encompassing. They're super strong, they're super fast, they're super this, or super that, right? They don't seem to be as defined, right? So one of the things that we see is that she can heal other people potentially. And at the end of the finale, she does something to Kingpin. I guess she helped him get over a particular trauma that he had. That's when Kingpin took that hammer and killed his father. He was keeping that hammer around as a reminder of where he came from, which I thought was actually a really cool detail. But at the same time, I just don't get, like, so what specifically are her powers? And I don't have a problem with her having those powers, but, you know, lay it out for me. Tell me, she can do this, she can't do that. She can do this, she can do this, she can do this. But when it kind of seems like she can just do whatever the story calls for, I just kind of get like, I'm not feeling that. Overall, I really enjoyed the show. I had a good time watching the show all at one time, and I would like to see more of Echo. And I enjoy this idea of Marvel Spotlight, where they just shine a light on one particular character, and we get to move off that character after that. Now, if Echo comes back, great. If she doesn't come back, that's okay. I would like to see her back. What did you guys think about the Echo TV show? Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys next time.